In this tutorial, I'm going to be going over how to insert doors, windows, how to adjust and set up curtain walls, and also turn on the shadows. So the first thing you need to know about placing a door is that a door is hosted by a wall. So if you don't have a wall there, you can't put a door. So in this part of the drawing, you can see that we have a door here, and then there's also a folding door here. Now I haven't drawn any wall in here, so I'm not going to be able to actually put a door in. So I'm going to have to go in with my wall tool and then place a wall. Even though the door can be, like, say, the width from all the way from here to here, there still needs to be a wall there. So on the right here, you'll see a bunch of preloaded doors that come with our template. So most doors will be in this kind of single flush category, either 2.5 feet wide and 6'8" high, or 3 feet wide and 7 feet high. So we'll go with a 30 by 84 inch door. And you can see as I move these around the walls that it'll preview where our door is going to show up. Now if you want to switch which direction the door is, you can hit spacebar and that'll flip it around in either direction. So once you place the door, you'll get these two sets of arrows. Now this arrow will flip it sort of left and right or up and down, and then this one will flip it across the wall. And even after you place a door, you can always go back and adjust the size. So you want it to be 3 feet wide instead of 2'6". So in the case of this house, the door behind here is a bit smaller than what we have now, which is a 3 feet by 7 foot door. So I'm just going to grab my tape measure tool and roughly measure how long this is. So about 2'2". So I'm actually going to undo it so I get my door back in there. And I'm going to change this. I'm going to make it a 2'2" wide door instead of a 3 foot wide door. Now in our options, we don't have any door that has that dimensions. The smallest we have is a 2 foot wide door, but that's a little bit too short. So what I'm going to do is go to Edit Type, click on Duplicate, and I'm going to change this to be a 26 foot by 84. And then for the width, I'm going to change that to 2'2". Hit OK. And now our door has changed with those new dimensions. If you want to place a door that's not in one of the existing doors that's preloaded into here, you can go up to the Load Family while you're in the Door command. So click on Load Family, scroll to Doors, and you can click on any of these door types here, not the curtain walls because you have to be in the curtain wall editor to select those doors. But you could check out the commercial doors or even the residential doors, and then as you click on them you can see the preview on the right. So say we want this double full glass wood door in our project, we'll hit Open. And this will give you a range of sizes that the door comes in as. So if you know exactly what you want, you could just select that one type to bring it in. Or if you hold Shift, you can select multiple types. Then you can bring all of those in to your project. So we get that new door right here, and then you can click on the different sizes and then pop that door in. So the same rules apply when you're placing a window. So grabbing up at the Window tool, here are our preloaded windows in our project. We have all these range of sizes here for the windows. So we can put maybe a 24 by 72 inch here. But say I wanted a 36 by 72 inch casement window. And right now I actually have one of those, but say we wanted a 48 by 72 inches. So I could select the window, hit Edit Type, go to Duplicate, we'll give it a new name. So we'll call this 48 by 72 inches. And then for the width, I'm going to type in 4 feet. Hit OK. Just move our window over here. And now we have our new window. So anytime we put in a window, you can see in the properties that you also have the sill height property. So this controls how far the window is from the floor. So I could change this to 3 feet. Now you can see our window is going through the floor to the next story because it's a little too big or our sill height is too high. So we could change this size down, maybe 36 by 48. We will put it at a 2'6" sill height. Okay. Then again, if you want to put in a window, but you don't have it loaded in your project, you can go to Load Family, scroll down to Window in your Revit families. So you can select any of these windows here. I'll get a preview of the window on the right, and then when you're happy with what window you want to use, click Open. Then this window comes in these different sizes, so I can cycle through those and then place this window on this wall. So the next is curtain walls. So a curtain wall is basically just a wall, but it's of the curtain wall type when you draw it. When you draw it, it'll just be one sheet of glass. So if I zoom around to this area of my drawing, I can see that this curtain wall section right here is just one big sheet of glass. So we want to divide it up a little bit, kind of like this panel down here on the floor below. So I can jump back to my third floor. So I'm going to go to the Architecture tab and then hit Curtain Grid. So the first thing you need to do to place mullions is divide up the glass. So I can see where these black boxes are. These are showing us where the mullions are on our AutoCAD drawing. Then when I hover over the curtain wall, I get this kind of preview line, and that'll show me where it is going to place or divide up the glass. So I can click on that and I can see that it's divided the glass like that. I can do that for each of the other locations. Then I can switch to my 3D view just to confirm that. So you can see where that dotted line is, and then it will give me a measurement on either side. So I can actually change this. Say I know the exact dimension that I want that to be. I can click on that guide, say type in 3 feet. You can place these curtain grids in floor plan, an elevation section, or 3D view. So I could come back up to Architecture, Curtain Grid, and then as I move my mouse around, it'll show me where it's going to place those grids. So I can even place them horizontally. So if you have a grid with an even number of segments, say we want to divide this up by 4 panels horizontally, if I move my cursor in the middle, it'll sort of lock and it'll show me that it's at the middle of the curtain line. So 4 foot 1, then I can even move this down and you can see when those dimensions are the same, so you can get like equal measurements on either side. So now that we got our grid divided up, and say we wanted to get rid of maybe some of the panels on some of these, I can click on that line, click Add or Remove Segments, then if I click on that dotted line, it'll get rid of those panels. So then when we put our mullions in later, we won't have a mullion going across in that area. So I'm just going to do the same thing for these panels, and actually I'm going to alternate it for our middle panel. Okay, so we've got everything divided. I'm going to go back to Architecture and click on Mullion. So it'll usually default to grid line, and you can see that we have different types of mullions on the side. Rectangular is the most common, but you can experiment with other types. So this will place a mullion on either a grid line, or you can place it on a grid line segment, such as maybe here or here. Most of the time you could just click on all grid lines, and that'll place mullions over the entire grid. So you can see if you wanted to change one of the mullion types, I could select that mullion. Say you want to try circular. So that's what a circular mullion would look like. And if you ever wanted to change how the mullions joined, such as down here, you can see that this would normally run horizontally straight across instead of having all the vertical members divide that up. So one way is you could click on this mullion, and if you can't select it, hit Tab, and that'll cycle between the different elements. So I can hit that mullion, and then I can click this little symbol right here, and that'll change the connection type right there. A little bit easier way of doing that is if you select the whole curtain wall, click on Edit Type, and then Join Condition. This will define how things are connected. So if I click on Horizontal Grid Continuous, you can see that all these horizontal lines now are basically running continuous, and our verticals are all being broken up. Again, if we switch that to vertical grid, it'll do the opposite. So most times, actually, the border and vertical grid continuous. So that'll make our bottom line here a continuous run, and then all the verticals on the inside will be continuous, which is usually how they're made. So I'm going to jump down to my second floor and show, say we wanted to put a door in this curtain wall here. So the first thing, again, we have to do is go to Curtain Grid and divide up our wall, our curtain wall. So we're going to put some segments in here. I'm going to actually switch to my 3D view so I can get a better view of this. You can also set up an elevation view if you wanted to get a look at that. So if you wanted to set up an elevation view, you could go to View, Elevation, and I'm going to place one right about here. So that'll show up in our elevations here. That should be 1A. And I'm going to switch to my shaded view just so it's a little easier to see. I believe that is this curtain wall right here. I can go back to my second floor plan, just double check. Yeah, so that's right here. We'll jump back to that elevation. And right now our curtain wall is going through this floor, so I can actually use these markers and just drag it down. So say we wanted to have a door on this right panel here, but then have maybe 4 by 2 grid of mullions on the left side here. So what I can do is if I hover over that grid line and I hit tab, that'll cycle between the panels and the grid lines. So I want to select this panel right here. And if I go up to the type properties, I can change the type of that to, say, a door single glass. So that changed that panel to a door. So the main thing to know here is you can't just go to your door tool and then place a door in a curtain wall. You can do it in a wall, but not a curtain wall. So you have to actually select the glass panel and then change that from just your normal glazed panel to a door. Now the width of the door is controlled by that grid that you set up before. So I'm going to jump back to my elevation. Now I'm just going to divide up this grid a little bit more. And you can see as I place it, it's going to actually divide this door in half because of this grid line that I just put in. So I'm going to click on 2 more grid lines, so one up here and then one down here. You can see again that it's dividing our doors. Now we have 4 doors stacked on top of each other. So to get rid of that line on this side, once I select that grid line, I'm going to go to Add Remove Segments, and then just remove that segment. So do the same thing with the others. So now we should just have 1 door. And I can click on Mullions, all grid lines, and then put in mullions for my whole grid. Actually, one thing we don't want is a mullion at the bottom because that's where a door is. So I can just select that mullion, hit delete. And now we've got a door in our curtain wall. So the next thing I want to cover is sun and shadows. So in your orthographic view, down at the very bottom here, you can see our sun and shadow options. So if I click shadows on, that'll default to the normal shadow settings for this view. Now you can see those settings when you click on the sun tool and then click on sun settings. So right now for the lighting, it's just putting in session lighting, and then this is the angle of the sun. So you could adjust these settings manually, but if your building was oriented in a specific way, you normally do either a still, single, or multi-day study. I already have the preset solstice and equinox time set up. So for the summer solstice, you can see right now this is set at 12 p.m. I could click apply and then see what those shadows look like. I could change this to any time, say 3 o'clock. We'll see what that looks like. But say I wanted to see what it looks like over maybe a whole day. I could click on a single day. Maybe we'll do a single day in the winter. The options here right now is just setting 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And for the interval, it'll do basically 1 shadow range every hour. I could change that, say I wanted to do 1 range every 30 minutes and a sunrise to sunset. So I'm going to click OK on that, and then I'm going to come down to the sun options and click on Preview Solar Study. So you can see right now that we're at December 21st at 7:11 in the morning when our sun rises. And if I click on the arrows, I can see that it'll jump basically every half an hour through that range of shadows. So right now we're at sunset, but if I turn shadows off, our model is still very dark because it's using those sun settings. So to get back to, you can go to sun settings, I'll change it back to still and a summer solstice at 12 p.m. and that should sort of reset our lighting. So in addition to the normal shadows, you can also use ambient shadows. So I'm going to switch my view to a hidden line view here and turn my shadows on. So right now everything is either in the shadow or in the light, so there's very hard lighting. So in my graphic display options, I'm going to go down to shadows and turn ambient shadows on and click apply. Now depending on the settings you might not see anything, so if I go down to lighting here, it's because my ambient light might not be that high. So usually I like to use settings of around 70, 50, and 30 for the sun ambient light and shadows. So if I click apply, I can see a little bit of a difference there. And you can see if I go back to shadows and turn off the ambient shadows, that it adds a little bit of shading around the base of the model. And that might be a little more noticeable if I turn back to my shaded view, say turn ambient shadows off. So you can see a little bit of a difference at the base of the model. And you can experiment with these settings to see kind of how these three sliders affect the lighting on the model. The last thing I want to cover real quickly is the section box. So this can be used in a 3D orthographic view, but also a perspective view. So right now we're just in our default 3D view. If you go to the properties and click on section box, so this will place a section box around your model, and you can click and drag on any of these blue sort of markers around the edge, and that'll cut through your model in any place where that box is cutting. So I could bring it down to the top, say cut through part of our floor, or I could move it around on any of these 6 sides. So this is a good technique if you want to, say, see something on the inside of your model and it's a little hard to see with all the built up geometry. So you can turn this on, move these pointers around, and then get a better look inside. And to reset the box, you can either re-drag the points out to how they were before, or if you go to the properties, you can simply uncheck the section box, and then checking it back on will reset it to its default.